Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am so thrilled you're tuning in because we're about to unpack something absolutely fundamental. Think of this as your masterclass in what it literally takes to make our communities thrive. We hear buzzwords like citizenship and democracy tossed around all the time, right? But today, we're zooming in on the living, breathing heart of those concepts. So let's dive right in and look at how our everyday choices actually shape the world around us.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap. We'll start with the meaning of civic virtue, then cover why your participation matters, civic virtue in action, the responsibilities of citizenship, and finally, education, morality, and peace.
So, kicking things off with Section 1, the meaning of civic virtue, which is really the foundation of society.
Before we get into the action part of things, we really need to set a moral baseline. There's this ancient wisdom from Galatians 5:13 that says, "Serve one another humbly in love." And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates our foundational premise. It connects this timeless idea directly to the modern necessity of looking out for our neighbors. It sets the stage for the idea that true citizenship isn't just about what you can extract from society, but how you actively pour back into it.
So what does civic virtue actually mean when the rubber meets the road? Well, at its core, it's putting the common good above your own personal interests and willingly doing what's right for society. And I want you to notice that word willingly. That's the secret sauce. It's all about the choices you make when literally no one is forcing you to make them. It's not just following the speed limit because you're scared of getting a ticket. It's helping out a neighbor or volunteering simply because you know deep down it's the right thing to do to keep your community strong.
Moving on to Section 2, why your participation matters and the stakes for democracy.
Now you might be wondering, why should I care? Let's take a look at what's actually at stake here, because the contrast is pretty stark. On the one hand, we see what happens when a society becomes selfish and uninvolved. Spoiler alert, democracy literally cannot survive this path. It creates a massive vacuum where corruption and injustice spread like wildfire. But then, on the flip side, when we work together and actively participate, our communities absolutely thrive. Democracy isn't some self-sustaining machine on autopilot. It depends entirely on the active, daily participation of you and me.
That brings us to Section 3, civic virtue in action, looking at everything from history to today.
Okay, so we've talked about the abstract concepts and the really heavy stakes, but let's look at what this actually looks like in practice. Ask yourself, who are the historical heroes of civic virtue? When you think of people who built the foundation of a nation through real, personal sacrifice, who pops into your head? If you pictured figures from early American history, you hit the nail on the head. We're talking about leaders like George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, who are celebrated for this exact concept. You know, they weren't just politicians. They modeled the very civic virtue we're talking about today. They are historically praised for putting the massive, complex needs of a totally fragile new nation way ahead of their own personal gain and comfort. They chose the common good when it was incredibly difficult to do so.
But the absolutely crucial point here is how this applies to you, right now. You probably aren't out there founding a new country this weekend. So let's pivot from the history books directly to the actions you can take in your own neighborhood today. How can young people show civic responsibility right now?
The good news is you definitely do not have to be a founding father to practice civic virtue. Look at these everyday examples. Volunteering at a local food bank, that directly supports folks in need. Simply recycling or picking up a piece of litter in a public park, that shows you respect our shared spaces. And staying informed by reading reliable news, that's a huge one actually. It prepares you to make incredibly wise choices when you participate in community decisions or eventually step into the voting booth. These small daily actions, they are the actual building blocks of a strong democracy.
Which leads us to Section 4, the responsibilities of citizenship and keeping society fair.
So we've talked a lot about virtue, which, as we established, is often voluntary. But it's important to remember that rights and responsibilities always go hand in hand. Citizenship carries essential duties that keep society organized and fair. It's a bit of a reality check that freedom isn't free. And I don't just mean historically, I mean in a daily practical sense. It requires continuous maintenance from every single one of us. Let's take a look at how these duties build on each other. Imagine a super busy intersection. Step 1. Obeying laws. When you stop at a red light, you are actively deciding to keep everyone else safe. It's a genuine act of community care. Step 2. Paying taxes. Nobody loves it, but it funds our roads, schools, and emergency services, which keeps society organized and fair. And Step 3. Respecting others' rights.
This ensures the exact same freedom you enjoy is extended to your neighbors. So you see, these aren't just boring legal obligations. They're literally the glue that holds a functioning society together. Finally, Section 5. Education, Morality, and Peace. Looking at the HeroesMart Academy philosophy.
As we start to wrap things up, we really need to look at the underlying philosophy that ties this whole shebang together for your personal benefit. Notice the powerful contrast here. On one side, we see education without morality. I mean, think about it. What is the point of being highly educated if you completely lack a moral compass? Without virtue, raw intelligence can actually lead to really painful, harmful choices. But on the flip side, education with morality intertwines your classroom learning with doing what is fundamentally right. It ensures your knowledge is used to build things up rather than tear them down.
And you know, that moral education leads to something absolutely beautiful. It's highlighted by a promise from Romans 8:6-7, which offers peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual and focused on these higher virtues. Because here's the secret. Practicing civic virtue and a godly moral framework doesn't just help your town or your country. It brings profound personal peace of mind directly to you. Actually doing good makes you feel good because it aligns your actions with a much higher purpose.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on today. How will you use your education and virtue to better your community today? You have the knowledge now, you clearly understand the stakes, so the choice is totally yours. Step out, stay informed, help a neighbor out, and be the everyday hero that your democracy so desperately needs. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and as always, keep learning.